reminders for our webinar. Kindly join the meeting early to test your technology. Greet everyone via our chat box when you enter. Check both the camera and microphone and turn both off. Connect to your hardwired internet if only Wi-Fi is available. Ensure you have the most reliable internet connection. Make sure to eliminate distractions. Before you speak, make sure that your mic is unmuted. If you do not intend to be heard, make sure your mic is muted. And lastly, for our Zoom participants, please use the chat box for any questions or assistance. Our technical team will help you. For our YouTube participants, you may also comment on your inquiries through our chat box with the format name dash question. Thank you.
RTU Beyond Borders.
Our goal to keep strengthening this already
Kalima Mod Sab.
To push forward.
For in-distance learning.
You mean local Filipino students study?
Why now? To learn a lot of that.
Highlighted shift from instruction focus.
The saying goes, nothing is permanent and only change is constant in this world.
Please do like us on Facebook. And for those who have not registered yet, please scan the QR code shown on screen. Thank you very much. A pleasant morning to everyone. The International Linkages and External Affairs Center welcomes you to RTU Beyond Borders. May we request everyone to join us in our opening prayer. We will now sing the national anthem, followed by the RTU march. Everyone, please rise. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to RTU Beyond Borders, Perspectives on Global Development. I am your host, Jamie Lee Gregorio, for today's event. This is the second Beyond Borders event brought to you by the International Linkages and External Affairs Center. We plan on making this an annual event to showcase our different programs for student and faculty exchanges, international scholarships, and cultural exchanges, and of course, international assistance. To know more about ILEAC, visit our Facebook page, RTU, International Linkages and External Affairs Center. You may also contact us through the following email flashed on the screen. All right. So to kickstart our journey beyond borders, let us welcome the Director of the International Linkages and External Affairs Center, Dr. Christine Y. Opulencia, to give her opening remarks. Let us all give her a virtual round of applause.
To our university president, vice presidents, college deans and directors, other university officials, fellow educators, dear students, and to our esteemed guests, good morning. It is with great pleasure and honor to welcome you all in this very timely and informative webinar with the theme RTU Beyond Borders, Perspectives on Global Development. We are once again gathered virtually today to imbibe knowledge and information relative to our university's goal of internationalization. The definition of internationalization in higher education refers to the process of integrating an international or intercultural aspect into teaching, research, and service functions. Thus, our center is continuing to provide all of you with initiatives and pathways on how we can strengthen the challenge of internationalization. In the Journal of Studies in International Education, written by Philip Atbach and Jane Knight, describes that globalization and internationalization are related, but not the same thing. Globalization is the context of economic and academic trends that are part of the reality of the 21st century. On the other hand, internationalization includes the policies and practices undertaken by academic systems and institutions, and even individuals to cope with the global academic environment. The motivations for internationalization include commercial advantage, knowledge and language acquisition, enhancing the curriculum with international content, and many others. Specific initiatives such as cross-border collaborative arrangements, programs for international students, establishing English programs and degrees, and others have been put into place as part of internationalization. Efforts to monitor international initiatives and ensure quality are integral to the international higher education environment. The international activities of universities range from the traditional study abroad programs or scholarships, students and faculty exchange programs by allowing students to learn about other cultures, and providing access to higher education in countries where local institutions cannot meet the demand. Other activities stress on upgrading the international perspectives and skills of faculty and students, enhancing foreign language programs, and providing cross-cultural understanding. We believe that RTU's internationalization programs will not be able to achieve its success by our center alone without the help and support of our university officials and the eagerness of faculty members and students alike. We are indeed grateful to all of you for being with us this morning, and as our mantra says, let us continue to soar high beyond borders. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you, Dr. K. Way to start. Okay, way to start our morning beyond borders. So here's another fun fact about the center. It was formerly known as the International Relations and Grants Office. And in the year 2019, it is what we know now today as ILEAC. All right. So at this juncture, let us hear an inspirational message from the university president, Dr. Maria Eugenia M. Yanko. Let us give her a big virtual hand.
Before anything else, let me greet each and every one of you a happy and blessed Tuesday, especially to our resource speaker, the Development Manager of International Projects of Queensland University of Technology, Mr. Vincent G. Sacres, the Director of the RTU International Linkages and Extension Affairs Center, Dr. Christine Opulencia, RTU officials, faculty, and students. It is with great pride and honor to be with you today as I join you in listening to the discussion about perspectives on global development. As we all know, globalization is one of the objectives of all state universities and colleges and higher education institutions. It is an understanding of the complex social, economic, and political links between people and the impact that changes have on others. It is an understanding of identity and cultural diversity, or an understanding of self and one's own culture, and being open to the culture of others. In RTU, the International Linkages and External Affairs Center was established for our university to have not only national but international linkages as well. It aims at opening a global dimension and a holistic perspective in order to help our faculty and students understand the complex realities and processes of today's world and develop values, attitudes, knowledge, and skills that will enable them to face the challenges of an interconnected world. Now that the COVID-19 pandemic is almost over, it is just proper once again for us to look for opportunities that will enable us to develop the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes needed for securing a just, sustainable world in which everyone has the right to fulfill his or her potential. Again, a pleasant day to each and everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yako. Okay, so at this time, I know all of you are excited to hear from our guest from the land down under. But hold your horses as we hear RTU Himig Rizalya in their intermission number. Allow me to introduce our keynote speaker. He is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, major in economics from the Mindanao State University. He took his master's degree in natural resource economics from the University of Queensland, St. Lucia, Brisbane, Australia. He worked as project manager and capacity development specialist, Australia Awards for Nepal, Timor-Leste, Tonga, Southwest Asia, Mongolia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Fiji, Solomon Islands, Tanzania, Papua New Guinea, Laos, Maldives, Ghana, Indonesia, and the Philippines. In 2021, he worked as course coordinator, program manager, and capacity development specialist, attracting and managing foreign investments in the post-COVID world, regional for Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam. In 2015 to 2022, he worked as program manager and capacity development specialist, Australia Awards Mongolia Women's Leadership Program. In 2021 to 2022, he worked as a course coordinator, program manager, and capacity development specialist, Australia Awards Indonesia Democratic Resilience, Youth Participation in Indonesia's Democracy. In 2022, he worked as program manager and capacity development specialist, attracting and managing foreign investments for Cambodia and Thailand. Presently, he is the development manager for international projects of the Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane, Australia. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker for this webinar, Mr. Vincent Zacris.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Jamie. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, and my appreciation to the Rizal Technological University for inviting me to speak and to share my experience in international development. I would like to acknowledge the University President, Dr. Yanko, as well as Dr. Opulencia and Professor Estocada of the International Linkages and External Affairs Center for inviting me as resource person. Before I formally start, it is traditional at Queensland University of Technology to start our activities with a welcome to country. Have a listen as I share to you a video.
Hello, sir. There's no audio. Could you reshare again? Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. I am just trying to figure out the audio. Can you hear it now? It's playing in my end.
No, sir. I think you need to reshare.
Reshare. Okay.
Yes, and then share audio.
I do apologize for the technological hiccup. Let me share again. Can I check if there's a sound?
There's still no sound, sir.
Okay. We'll just watch it without the sound then.
Have you shared it, sir, with the audio? You have to click on the share audio.
Okay. Okay, good morning again, everyone. I am sorry for that hiccup. I will share again my presentation to you for today. So, as our host mentioned, my name is Vincent Sacris, and I am the International Development Manager for Queensland University of Technology. My role is to find international development opportunities for the university. I will explain what international development is in a little while, but basically, what I do is to identify international projects, bids for those projects, and eventually manage and implement those projects in relation to international development. In my role, I have won and managed about 20 million worth of projects for the university. I've worked in 16 countries in Asia, the Pacific, Africa, and I tremendously enjoy working internationally and meeting people from various countries. In my spare time, I love to travel. Hence, I absolutely love to work as it gives me the chance to travel to places that I wouldn't normally visit. I have been to more than 100 countries around the world, and my next goal is to explore parts of Antarctica, as it's the only continent that I have not been to. Okay, sorry, I'm just having some technological Okay, I'm just sharing the screen once again. I do apologize. Jamie, that might be a good idea to have okay. Where is it now? Okay. Sorry, Jamie. Yes. So Jamie, can you give me back the control? But I need to read on my notes. I do apologize.
Yes, sir. Can you can do that now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So as Dr. Yanko mentioned a while ago, the pandemic has been very difficult for us working international development as it affected the way we conduct our business. I normally travel once a month to overseas or interstate to conduct work, so it was challenging time for us. However, the world is cautiously starting to reopen and it is exciting once again. The international development sector is something that I didn't know existed when I was growing up, and it is a career that I have not thought of before we raised to think our traditional profession that are synonymous to success, like engineering, medicine, law, finance, and like then work for a private firm to earn a comfortable living. I never thought that working in international development can give me the career that I've always wanted. I have a short video to show you. This is a product of a workshop we did during the pandemic to share our stories in less than 2 minutes. It is done in half a day, so it is a bit amateurish, but have a listen. So before I proceed in defining international development, I'd like to ponder on something. I mean, I like to think about this question. Are we born equal? I wish we were all in a room together so we can have a discussion, and I would really love to hear others people's view and perspective on this one. But we are limited with the Zoom. Another slide that I would like you to see is that all men are created equal. This is the United States Declaration of Independence. When Thomas Jefferson, the founding father of America and its third president, penned this in 1776, what do you think was on his mind when he said that all men are created equal? Another declaration that I'd like to see and ponder upon is all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. That's the Article 1 of the United Nations Universal Declaration. Human Rights Declaration. So why do you think we have these declarations about equality? A world in contrast. Um, Now consider this one in your thinking. Atherton in Greater San Francisco area in California is often considered the wealthiest postcode in the United States, with an average household income of more than 500,000. It has about 7,500 residents with beautiful housing estates and top-notch facilities. On the other hand, we have Juba, the capital of the youngest nation on earth, in South Sudan. It is estimated that 90% of the population in Juba are considered informal settlers. 82% of South Sudan are considered poor, that is living below $1.90 a day, based on 2011 purchasing power parity poverty line. In other words, if you earn more than $1.90 a day, you are considered not poor. So there is something wrong with the definition of poverty that we are currently having right now. I know that this is a little bit extreme comparison, but I wanted to show to you the contrast in the world we live in. If you give a scenario on how the lives of people can be intertwined, so let's consider two persons in the scenario. The first one is Michael. Michael is male, white, able, Christian, and was born and raised in one of the households in Atherton, California. The second, let's name her Fatima. Fatima is female, Black with disability, Muslim, and was born and raised in the slums of Juba. So let's talk about child and maternal healthcare. By the time Michael was born, he is a healthy baby boy with the best healthcare his parents can afford. Mom and dad are living a healthy lifestyle. On the other hand, Fatima's mom might have died of childbirth and was raised by her grandmother. His father is doing odd jobs, barely enough to sustain a living. She might not survive her first birthday, given that access to healthcare is almost non-existent. At the very beginning of their lives, a disparity has already existed. What international development aims to provide a solution to this problem by providing support to the improvement of child and maternal health. For instance, QUT was involved in providing support and capacity building in child and maternal health in East and West Africa to ensure that mom and baby will have a good start in life. Let's talk now about education. By the time Michael is of school age, he would have gone to the best school from early childhood, primary, and then secondary school. Fatima, on the other hand, would not have a formal early childhood education. The quality of her basic and secondary education is far below world standard and was exacerbated by the fact that she has a physical disability that hinders her from accessing education. So international development aims to provide Fatima with a level playing field. QUT, for instance, provided training to education ministries in Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Tonga, Indonesia, the Philippines, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and the Maldives in early childhood education, inclusive education, K-12 curriculum, and vocational education. In this way, we can offer people like Fatima a fighting chance in education. In terms of humanitarian crisis, pandemic, and disaster preparedness, we can assume that Michael will be in a safe environment. Fatima, on the other hand, living in substandard housing with no support from the government, might have difficulty surviving. Again, QUT provides training in disaster management, natural resource management, and pandemic preparedness in the Philippines, Solomon Islands, Tonga, Indonesia, the Maldives, India, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka to ensure that people living in poverty can have access to pandemic and disaster management and have access to aid during humanitarian crisis. It is often considered that if you are born male, white, abled, straight, and Christian in a developed country, you seem to hit the jackpot in life's lottery. Our policies, laws, and everything that has been established in the past has been deemed to cater for this kind of demographic. If you are not within that demographic, then you are considered to be a minority. And you have to fight extra harder to be able to access the services that a certain demographic can have advantage. So QUT provided training in gender equity, disability, and social inclusion all over the world to ensure that girls, people with disability, vulnerable groups are represented in decision-making process. As Jamie mentioned a while ago, I have managed the Women's Leadership Program in Mongolia for a few years, providing support to women to pursue leadership roles. Now, in higher education, we can assume then that Michael would have access to good universities, perhaps an Ivy League university. Fatima would be lucky to be enrolled in higher education given her circumstances. However, with the support of International Development Agency in many developed countries around the world, like Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, Japan, and the European Union, they do offer scholarship to citizens of developing countries. Fatima, after all, despite the trials and the tribulation that was thrown to her, her entire life might have a good chance in getting to those universities through international development. I hope I did give you a good example on why international development is crucial. So what is international development? So international development is basically the pursuit of a better world for all through the elimination of poverty, discrimination, and injustice. Worldwide, the most common framework to understand international development is found in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And the Sustainable Development Goals are what we try to achieve for us to have poverty, zero hunger, good healthcare, quality education, gender equity, clean water, affordable clean energy, and the other 17 goals that the United Nations have developed in partnership and consultation with the rest of the world. I was able finally to figure out that the technology, I'm so sorry guys, because during practice, it's a different screen. So that's why I'm a little bit confused now that I'm sharing it with everyone. So the question that I usually asked to me is that, is there money in aid and development? There is, For example, Australia's official development assistance is worth $4 billion. The United States, on the other hand, probably have about $35 billion, and that is budget for an entire country, basically. Some smaller countries around the world have less budget than that. But many developed countries are offering this official development assistance. And what does an official development assistant look like? There is a common misconception that money given as official development assistant goes to government and let the government spend it. That is not the case. When, for instance, Australia will say that we will be committing $300 million worth of official development assistance to the Philippines, it doesn't mean that they'll give that to the government and implement programs. What it means is that it will partner with practitioners. It partners with universities. It will partner with NGOs to provide those assistance. And in our unit, the International Projects Unit, this is where we source our income. We tapped on that $4 billion to to have projects, to develop projects, to conceptualize projects. And in these cases, I have a talk with Dr. Opulencia and Professor Estacada before that, as a start, we could partner, for example, in smaller projects, that we can tap out of this $4 billion. It might be not that much, but at least it's a good start in terms of partnership. Now, as I mentioned before, I'd like to show you the official development assistance for each of the country. This is in billions of dollars. So as you can see here, the United States has over $35 billion in official development assistance that it gives to developing countries all over the world. Germany is there, and Australia, I think, is in the top 15 with about $3 to $4 billion that's given to international aid development. But as you can see on the other side, on the left side, Sweden per capita is actually giving more money to the world in terms of the percentage of its national income. And the United States, even though it's giving the most, somewhere in the top 20 as well in terms of as a percentage of the gross national income. Australia is also part of the top 20, and as you can see, it is a multi-billion-dollar sector that in international business and in the global economy, we should be able to tap. International development is not about giving aid when there's a disaster strike. That is one component of it. But many of the training programs that we do involve capacity building program to train teachers. As your host, Jamie, mentioned a while ago, we are doing a project currently with Cambodia and Thailand about foreign direct investment, and to look at possible ways in retaining and managing foreign direct investment in the country. So that's part of the globalization effort, that we are all interconnected and we need to tap on. And it doesn't mean that it's an aid program that you will be paid a pittance. There is money there that we can tap. And the fee that is going to be given to consultants are actually market value. So so it's quite attractive in terms of investment. So as we all know, the higher level of income in a country means that you have more money to give to the world. And I think it was released yesterday, the World's Happiness Report, the publication by the Sustainable Development Solution Network, which is a global initiative for the United Nations. As you can see in here, the happiest countries on earth are basically wealthy countries. 5 of them are Nordic countries, Finland being the first, Denmark second, Iceland third, Sweden number 7, and Norway number 8. Australia is number 12. And as you can see in there, United States, basically European countries, and perhaps Pacific, Australia and New Zealand, with probably the exception of Israel in the Middle East. There are...
Excuse me, Sir Sakris.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I believe your slide is not moving.
Oh. So currently where we are at now?
In the screen that I'm looking at now, it's Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay.
Sir, we can assist you. Is it all right?
Please, you can take over now. I don't need my notes anymore.
All right. Sir, we can have a 2-minute break to assist you with your slides. Is that all right?
Thank you so much.
Okay,
I'm really,
thank you,
really
sir.
sorry with the technology.
Okay, it's okay, sir. Okay, for everyone, we will just have a 2-minute break. Hold on a minute. Okay.
I think that it's the time for young universities. And I think that as a young university, we are really ambitious. I think we can be leaders in completely new and different ways. Not just our formal learning spaces, but really the blend of formal and informal and highly collaborative learning spaces.
Hi, Dawn. Pa-send ko na lang sa'yo.
5 Rhodes Scholars out of 6 years, we must be doing something right.
The Cube is one amazing example of what we've been doing at QUT to engage people in different ways. Not just our students, but students that might come to us in 10 or 15 years' time.
Yeah, we're now one of the largest robotics research groups, particularly in robotics and computer vision now in the world. QUT runs an event called Robotronica. Last year we had a show with 50 robots on stage with a live orchestra. When we're developing medical robotics, we're doing UAVs. We've now got a really amazing world-leading team.
Creativity really has been in QUT's DNA since the very beginning. We're at the forefront of actually looking for innovation.
QUT is your pathway to creating the environments of tomorrow.
The real world starts here,
health,
loud and clear.
Social relationships.
One decision launches your mission to become valuable, adaptable, unstoppable. In the real world, hands-on ability shapes your credibility to flex your flexibility and thrive where others die. In the real world, top of their list, you got this. Connect to the best, outthink the rest. Summon your own success. In the real world, feed your fire for innovation, inspiration, the yearning, burning aspiration to represent your generation. In the real world, be the one, the young gun, the up and come, the standout, she, he, they, or we that shakes the tree. In the real world.
And the global movement of modern architecture within design studio units, building on the process of design, dwelling, Studying architecture at QUT is your pathway to creating the environments of tomorrow that will make positive impacts on health, environmental quality, social relationships, and urban systems. By undertaking architectural design projects in practical studio settings, you'll be able to think logically and creatively about how buildings and cities function and are constructed. Your degree will introduce the fundamental principles of design, which are core to your learning and are taught through a series of design studios throughout the course. You will learn visualization and technical skills and applications needed to formulate design with an understanding of appropriate materials for the built environment. Fundamental to the course is a coherent knowledge of sustainable design principles to underpin your design thinking. Your studies will then build on these foundations and explore areas including environmental principles and the global movement of modern architecture within design studio units, building on the process of design, dwelling, tectonics and public spaces. Later in your degree, you'll be able to transfer skills and knowledge in a real work environment and gain practical experience with work-integrated learning. Architecture at QUT has a 100-year history as one of Australia's principal architecture educators and is increasingly being recognised internationally for its focus on innovation in design and sustainable development. You will be learning from the experts with extensive industry contacts and many years of real-world experience in solving complex challenges and problems. This expertise, combined with your hands-on experience in architecture studio project work and work-integrated learning, will prepare you for employment in the fields of architecture and building design. On completion of the 2-year Master of Architecture and the required period of practical experience, you'll be eligible to sit for registration as an architect in Australia. In addition to the core discipline units of architecture, you'll be able to choose complementary studies made up of 4 architecture design specialisation units, a minor, or a combination of design specialisation units and electives. You also have the option to combine your architecture degree with a second degree to gain a broader range of skills and knowledge, a competitive advantage, and enhanced career flexibility. A double degree means you graduate with 2 degrees in less time than it would take for 2 single degrees. To achieve this, you combine your core units and major from the Bachelor of Architecture with your counterpart in your double degree. At QUT, you can combine architecture with business, engineering, property economics, and construction management. The planet is changing. New technology is emerging. Architects are facing exciting challenges and creating amazing structures that are inspiring the cities of the future. How we live and work tomorrow will be very different from today. Study architecture at QUT and help set the direction.
Miss Jamie, morning. Miss Jamie, excuse me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning.
Can we assist first, Mr. Vincent, doon sa video sharing here?
Yes, sir.
Can you allow first Vincent to share the video? Vince, please try to share the video. Then we will. Yes, can we try? Can we try? Can you share your PowerPoint again? Then can we proceed? Click the video. Okay. Can you right click? Go to the share screen. No, we can't. So you go first to the settings of share screen. Can you click the share screen, the arrow? Yes. Meron bang options na lumalabas? Anong lumalabas, Vince? Diyan sa may share screen. May icons. When you click the share screen. Miss Jamie,
Yes, sir.
can you assist Mr. Vincent paano siya ma-share with the audio? With an
Yes,
audio.
sir. When you share your screen, sir, there is the screen. You have to choose which panel you want to be viewed by Zoom. And then on the lower left, you have to tick share screen or share sound, sorry. Share sound.
Can we do the now? Can we do it step by step? So, ayan.
Okay. Please
Then,
introduce
Yeah.
yourself to the
Ayan,
group,
sir.
and then tell us how.
may sounds na. Thank you. Okay, Miss Jamie, let's proceed.
All right. Yes, sir. You can already share your screen. It already has audio.
So can everybody see the screen now? I do apologize again for the technology, ladies and gentlemen. But if you can see the World's Happiness Report, then that is where we left our talk this morning. So I was saying a while ago that if you are a wealthy country, then the level of happiness usually is very high. There are other factors there that you need to consider. The first one, of course, is the income. The others would be the ability to share your wealth to others, and security, for example, perception of corruption, and also the perception of dystopia are some of the factors that that the United Nations are looking when they have these rankings of World Happiness Resort. And as you can see from the other side, those countries, mostly from Africa, and those countries that experience war, seems to be at the very bottom 20. You can see there Ukraine, for example. By the way, your flag reminds me of the flag of Ukraine, your color, by the way, of is it blue and yellow. Reminds me of the flag of Ukraine. And as I mentioned a while ago, these are the least happy countries around the world. And for your information, if you might be asking where is the Philippines is number 60. So we are actually in the first half of the world's happiness report. So we are considered a happy country in that sense. Okay. So let me talk now about partnership and collaboration. So, the International Projects Unit, our mission is to promote the university's engagement in international development projects and our positive contribution to development outcomes abroad in QUT's international industry network and contributing to our research and innovation agenda. I'll just click in here to share with you our website and to see what kind of work we do. Now, can you see the International Project Unit website? Is that what you're seeing from your screen?
Yes, sir.
So as you can see in here, we do have a lot of areas of expertise, and we do have projects in STEM education, safety in the construction sectors, social protection policy. And just to let you know that the winner of our impact stories are those stories that we shared around the globe in terms of project. The 2020 winner was actually from the Philippines, out of the many countries that we are having our presence. Not because, I'm a Filipino, because they saw the impact of our project in the Philippines. This project is about the Philippine Science High School, our partnership that we developed together with the Department of Science and Technology and the Philippine Science High School and QUT. And we developed the K-12 curriculum because, as you know, the Philippine Science High School is an attached agency of the OSD and not of the Department of Education. But as the mandate, the government mandate, they need to convert also to K-12. Let me try sharing again the video with them, and I hope this will play. Let me know, Jamie, if it's not playing.
I am Lilia Tan Habakwan, Executive Director of the Philippine Science High School System, an attached agency of the Department of Science and Technology. 5 years since 2014, the Philippine Science High School System has expanded into an institution of 16 campuses around the country, providing globally competitive education to Filipino youth with high aptitude in science and mathematics. The increase in the number of PSHS campuses enabled more Filipino children to study in Philippine Science High School.
I would like to thank Queensland University of Technology for the opportunity that has been given to our team at the Philippine Science High School and also at the Science Education Institute of the Department of Science and Technology because this has resulted in positive impact in our programs and operations, and will continue to contribute more innovations because of the activities of our students in research and in the use of this research.
So as you can see, the impact of that story is actually tremendous. The global ranking of the Philippines, from I think 149 to 73, that's a significant increase in our global ranking in science and technology, basically in STEM education. I will share again my screen and hope this will work. Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned to Dr. Opalencia and Professor Sukade before, I invited two development experts to talk with us today. However, they are having some other issues with their schedule because some of them are traveling interstate. So I recorded our conversation yesterday, and I'd like you to have a listen on what the conversation was all about. These two experts are Dr. Julie King, who has immense experience in deciding and delivering gender equity, disability, and social inclusion program, and Ms. Jeanette Clonan, long history in international development, particularly in leadership program. And both these amazing women have worked in the Philippines. And I'm very proud to introduce them to you. Have a listen to our conversation. I hope you can hear this one too. Let me know if you can't.
Hello, sir. Are you sharing your your
morning,
screen.
Julie. Good morning, Jeanette. And thank you for joining me on this talk. Sorry again, Jamie.
Yes, we are seeing the world's happiest report on screen.
Okay, let me try again. Stop sharing.
So I think, sir, you can not use the full screen option, just the screen that you are using now.
Okay.
And then play that one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Jeanette. And thank you for joining me on this talk. First question, please introduce yourself to the group and then tell us how did you start your career and then how were you involved in international development?
Want to go first, Jeanette? You want me to go first? Okay. So my career started quite a while ago, but I started off as a teacher. And when I was at Teachers College, I studied Bahasa Indonesia. So I got quite interested in Indonesia as a nation. I studied at a university in Indonesia, and I taught Bahasa Indonesian, along with a number of other subjects such as English and drama. And so from there, I went into sort of administration. I love teaching, but I found the classroom a little bit constrictive with bells and times and things like that. So I was always very interested in strategy. And so I went into, I headed up a curriculum writing team that covered all of the languages of South Australia where I was living. And then I moved cities. I moved from Adelaide to Brisbane. And there I joined the public service again. But because I had a real interest in international by this stage, and at that stage it was mainly Indonesia, I was approached by the Indonesian government to set up joint education projects with the government of South Australia. So I did that for quite a while, and then moved to Queensland and worked in Trade Queensland, where I headed up the International Development Unit as far as market research around the world for Queensland businesses. I then did an MBA in business because I really liked business, and then decided that I was so interested in other countries. And by this stage, I've worked across the world in different countries and market research with my teams, and did a lot of visits, that I started my own company. And that's when I started working with QUT, because what really I found very, very interesting was working with other people. And at first I thought, well, my background, it's teaching, it's the public service. What do I have to offer? But what I found out was that all of those experiences that I had were wonderful experience in working in the development world. I've worked in projects with QUT and in my own company, in education, in integrated water management, in service delivery, in working with the public service, because all of those experiences come together. And so what I found is in development, it's not just about whether there's a crisis in a country, it's actually about developing the people in that country. And that's something that I just love. I love the strategy of international development. I love the working with people. In fact, I found COVID really, really difficult where I can't do face-to-face, because I really love the interaction that takes me out of my own country and working with other people around the world, because you learn from everyone. And I think I can share my own learnings with other people. And so it's just been a fascinating journey. One of the things that I was really quite surprised with, people still stop me in the street in Brisbane who work for the public service and say, I didn't think you could ever find a job outside the public service. You know, I start a company. But all the skills I gained in the public service, I use. And so I found out that a lot of people see me as a role model of how to take your experience and then move to development and find a really worthwhile occupation or profession for myself, but something I believe is that I can actually input and support people in other countries and also learn from them. So that's a real tiny snapshot, Vince.
Thank you, Jeanette. Wonderful. Just for the record to the group, Julie and Jeanette are two of my favorite consultants and two people that I admire the most because of their experience, and it's just a fun to work with them. I work with Jeanette in travel to Indonesia, Philippines, and with Julie I traveled with her in the Pacific, Fiji and Tonga, for example. So Julie, please share with us your experience also.
Yeah. So I guess like Jeanette, everything started a long time ago. Mine actually started in my childhood because my dad was in the British Army. And so we travelled a lot, and then he moved to the Australian Army, which means we travelled even more. So by the time I had left school, I had lived in many, many countries, particularly in Southeast Asia, mostly in Singapore and Malaysia. And so I've always had this fascination for other countries and travel, and culture is just one of those things. I decided that I'd try nursing. It was an interesting step for me, and I mostly nursed cross-culturally because I love the idea of working with people from other cultures, because it enriches your life, but it also is a challenge. I did some nursing back in England, and I did a lot of thought when I was over there. I was thinking of working for an organisation called Operation Orbis, or Surgical Eye Expeditions. But fate brought me back to Australia because my dad was very sick. And I decided I want to go back to university. I want to do something a little bit different. And so I went back and did Asian studies and anthropology. And that's where I discovered medical anthropology, which is looking at health and illness and all the contributing factors to health and illness from a cultural perspective. And that led me to QUT. So I started doing a Master's of Public Health in International Health, and that took me to Thailand. And I worked in Northeast Thailand, which is a very rural, very poor part of Thailand, and learned so much about working on the ground. I learned about development. I visited also places like Nepal, and I'd see all these NGOs over there, and I'd see all these four-wheel drives going around. So I think it really sparked an interest about, what is this area, what is happening? And so I continued with QUT, and I went on and did my PhD looking at disability. So my primary angle at that particular time was disability, but also with a touch of thinking about how disability impacts people differently from different cultures, but also if they're men or if they're women, for example. It was while I was at QUT that I was introduced to the International Projects Unit. And everything took off from there, basically. I got to work with Vince, I got to work with others in the International Projects Unit, mostly with a focus on gender equality, disability and social inclusion. So that really is where my specialty area is. I really love it because I get to do so many interesting things. I don't get to sit in as an academic. I don't get to sit just in my office. I sometimes call myself a academic because I get out there still. I work with people. I don't sort of sit and gather cobwebs in a dusty office. And it's really, as Jeanette was saying, it is so rewarding. You learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about the people that you work with. And I think, you know, working particularly with Vince and people like Jeanette it's about empowering people. It's about bringing people up with you. It's not doing things to people. It's about looking for the strengths, working with those strengths, and feeling passionate about what you're doing. And Jeanette's quite right. It's not just about waiting for the next emergency or humanitarian response. It's about getting in there beforehand and building up communities to make sure that there's resilience there, and that people can actually do things themselves. It's not, we've passed all that stuff around colonization. We actually want to encourage people to take strength and be resilient, and we take from them knowledge about, you know, what you can do in Australia, for example. So we learn many, many lessons in doing this. So it's great work. It's a lot of fun when you work with people like Vince and Jeanette as well.
Thank you, Julie and Jeanette. My next question is, since we are, I'm recording this for the Filipino audience, and I know both of you have worked extensively with our Filipino group. Can you share some experience with our Filipino fellows and participants in terms of projects? You know, what can you share that, you know, will inspire some of our audience today?
Julie, do you want to go first on this one?
Okay. I think I remember, it's many, many years ago
Yes.
now. Time seems to fly very quickly, and I think COVID has made it go even quicker in some respects. I worked with a group from the Philippines who were working in inclusive disaster management. And as you would well know, Philippines is really vulnerable to cyclones and typhoons and floods and earthquakes and a whole range of different natural disasters, and also the impact of climate change. And so this course was about looking how to include other people in response and in mitigation in the Philippines. So predominantly people with disability and women, older people, etc. What I learned in this, I guess, was how strong Filipinos actually are, how resilient they are. In Australia, it's very easy for us. We're a very rich country, and it is easy for us to rebound back after a disaster, and we have lots of resources. But to work with a group that were so imaginative and creative in the way that they thought about how are we going to address some of these issues in the Philippines, where we are resource poor, and where we have, you know, diverse cultures, but also lots and lots of different islands. Whereas, you know, even though Australia is big, you know, communication is great. Response is really great. And I think for me, I sometimes come away from those sorts of projects thinking, I think I've learned more than I've actually told people or worked with people. So I think, you know, one of the ways of looking at development sometimes is looking at ourselves as facilitators. The people that we're working with are the experts in their own lives, and it's about finding clever solutions that are practical, are meaningful, and are achievable, rather than trying to say, well, we do this in Australia, let's do that over there. And I think some of the remarkable people that I worked with when we looked at a disability resource centre, amazing people with disability who were just champions and inspirations in their own right, to think about the way that they have managed to emerge with all the things that are barriers to them. and be strong, and particularly some of the women with disability. I have such admiration. So I think what I take away from working with groups for the Philippines is the remarkable sense of strength and resilience and creativity of creating sustainable solutions.
Thank you, Julie. That's wonderful. Jeanette?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about projects that I've done in education in the Philippines, which was the SLATES program over 3 years. And I still, this happened, SLATES happened about 8 years ago now. I still have contact with most of the people in the SLATES projects. And what really got me about those, they were teachers of excellence. So these people move me, and they still move me deeply. In some of the conditions that they work in, and their absolute passion for what they do. Managing to balance that passion with their families in situations I know that have been with typhoons and mudslides and things like that, walking kilometres to their schools and doing the most amazing things. So what I found in those projects was the camaraderie, the support for each other, and that like Julie, I acted as a facilitator, but a facilitator in bringing people together, and the creativity, the passion, the support when things weren't going well, even after the project, if there'd been a typhoon or something like that, that people from all over that came for SLATES would support each other. So I just find it amazing, and I still feel privileged to work with these people, and the fact that we still have a long-term relationship together. And I think that's certainly what development is about. It's actually about facilitation on my role, but actually supporting people to develop their leadership. So it's it's working together, and it's I'm quite passionate about women in leadership as well. And so to see some of these women really developing and the men supporting them as well, I just find that whole development of a person, both professionally, and I think it goes together with professional development personally. And I'm like Julie, I think that I've developed and learnt so much in working with these wonderful people who are creative, who are resilient, and who care so much about each other and their work. And this whole feeling of we're building a nation and I look at their action plans often at the end of the training, and I've been moved to tears to see what happens down the track, that it's with development. It's not about let's go to a training, if we want to call it a training. It's about how do we make a difference for the better, both personally and professionally, and for the nation. And I think Filipinos do that really well.
Thanks, Jeanette. Just to give a background to our friends in the Philippines, SLATES is actually the search for the most outstanding teachers in the Philippines by Metrobank Foundation and the Department of Education. And we've been hosting a group of Filipino teachers for a few years. I think 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, Jeanette. So that was wonderful. And
Can I interrupt?
Please.
Vincent? Just
Yes.
This is not about the Philippines, but it is working with Julie, because we love working together. So this is a project in another country where the police force came out, head of the police force, and they were looking at development. And one of the things that they did when they returned home was to send us a photo of a toilet in a police station. Do you remember that, Julie?
Yes, I
now,
do.
You might think, why would they send us a toilet police station? Because this was the first police station where they had put in a women's toilet, because the women used to have to go next door. So in development, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. That actually was a major step forward, and they were so proud that they actually now had a women's toilet.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that so clearly. That brought a lump to your throat, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Yes, and segueing from that, Jeanette and Julie, I consciously involve you both to my projects because I know that you are inspirational women that can make a difference to our program. How do you incorporate the gender component in our training? Because that is one of the aspect that the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Australia is wanting to influence our partners overseas.
Julie, do you want to go first? I know you're so passionate about this. We both are, but
yeah. I think it can be quite difficult at times to do this, and it's something that has to be introduced right at the beginning of a training. Like it's a headline of the training. You can't gender is never something that you tack on at the end and go, oh, we've got to think about women. It's something that does need to be integrated. And it can be challenging. It can be challenging because, the majority of countries are patriarchal. They're led by men. And women are still seen. Even in Australia, we have these issues. You stay at home. You're the ones that have the babies. You're the primary carers of your children. So if they're sick, you've got to go and pick them up from school. So women wear many hats. And for a woman in a leadership position, there are many challenges that women have to face. And that is juggling those hats as a mother, as a homemaker, as a wife, as a leader. And so it's about breaking down barriers. It's about reflecting on why we have these cultural norms around gender and the position of women in society. And, I know for myself that I have been challenged a lot in classes. I think, Vince, for the integrated water one, there were big challenges trying to get people, particularly the men, to think about women in a very different way. And this is where, as a woman, and we have to be strong. We cannot back down. We cannot say, yeah, no, let's just let that go. We can't. It is about bringing forward women into leadership positions who want to be in those leadership positions. It's about giving women choice about how they want to live their lives, whether it be at home. Some women may want to stay at home, but others may want to work. They may want to be leaders. Women have aspirations. And so it's about trying to encourage both men and women, because you can't have gender equality or equity without bringing both men and women. So this isn't about putting men down. This is about raising women up and having a partnership with men. And it's really important because we do know that in the past and still in many cases, women are left behind in the development process. So we need to raise voices and we need to bring women in right from the beginning as part of the decision-making, the planning, the evaluation, everything.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Julie. One of the lessons I learned from Julie is that, when I come to a training, I see educated people, and what they're saying is that, we don't have a problem about women equality because we treat them well. And what Julie said really struck to me is that, well, that's because you're educated, you are a good person. But think about the rest of your country. There are a big percentage of your country that is not the same as you. is not thinking the same of you, that's still abusing their wives, is they're abusing women, and there's no equality. So that's, for me is, a big eye opener. Yeah, I should have to think about others, because my friends, the network that I go on, are all, people that have decent treatment about women. So
Yeah.
thank you for that, Julie.
Yeah, I would just like to though point something out that yes, educated people may have more. We do know that education is one of the best ways for gender equality for women, but there are still lots of people who are educated who have cultural norms or social norms around the status of women. And I think, in Australia, because we are a well-educated country, because we're a developed country, sometimes things like domestic or family violence, they're still there, but sometimes we are better at covering it up and not talking about it. And I think we have to be alert to that, because I know in trainings where we do have educated people, I have been challenged. I have been challenged with statements like, oh, but if your wife nags you for long enough, you may strike out. No. So I think we have to still be aware of that.
Thanks, Julie.
So Vince, I'll talk about it from my own life experience in a way, in that when I'm looking at facilitation in my projects, then sometimes I'm working with Julie where we have specific sessions on gender and disability and GEDC. But also I believe, and what I try and practice, is that it needs to be integrated right through every bit of my facilitation and training, that we remind people of what are the issues, and therefore what's your context. What I'm very, very passionate about is when I'm working in another country with groups from other people from other countries, is looking at context, not, as Julie mentioned earlier, taking the Australian context and putting that on top of the context of that country. So what that means is that right throughout all the training, I like to ensure that it's part of the training. The whole look at GEDC, at gender, is throughout the whole training. And I actually have, and I'm sure Julie's had many life experiences that we draw on, because I think part of training is storytelling. Part of facilitation is storytelling. It's very, very powerful. There's a woman who is now retired, whose life has been to go to countries where there has been disaster or where people have been downtrodden and tell their stories. So storytelling is very, very powerful. And so I actually can look at my own family where my sister actually, my sister and my niece-in-law were subject to domestic violence. In fact, he tried to, the ex-husband tried to murder them. And so I've actually, I totally understand, here's an educated family that people thought were wonderful, that the domestic violence was hidden for a long time. I can call on the fact that I'm on boards where I have been the only woman on a board. And I know what that feels like. And I know the challenges that we face, that I've been told that because I couldn't have children, that I really wouldn't understand what it was like to be in a family with children. So I draw on those life experiences because I think one of the really important things about a facilitator is to have empathy as well in that understanding, and what it means for both men and women in situations like that and how people feel. So one of the things as far as gender is concerned, I like to say to people, can you put yourself in another person's shoes? Once you can do that, it's easier to find the solutions and easier to have a human face on it in the discussions. And I know, Julie, you in the integrated water management, you had people right in your face And what really struck me was how calm you remained, but took it from a human perspective and other people's shoes, what it would be like. And I think that's what often work and development's about. It's about understanding the context, putting yourself in other people's shoes, and using some of your own life experiences, or others if you're allowed to share. So I think it's really important to integrate it right across all facilitation.
Thank you, Jeanette. My last question is, because we're running out of time, is can you share some of your, as part of this program, we travel overseas, and there are the good things, bad things, and that is happening there. I should rephrase that. Some good things and the not so good things that sometimes happen when we are overseas. Can you share a particular example where, it really stuck on you, that you will never forget, for instance?
Okay.
Who would like to go first?
Okay.
I can see Julie's got it.
I'll talk about Tonga. I think, Vince and I travelled to Tonga a few years ago now to follow up a course that we had done on inclusive disaster management. And so we were going over there to look at how they were going with their planning to include people with disability. When we got there, we stepped into another disaster. We were only there for about half a day, and all of a sudden we were told, okay, you got to hunker down in your hotel because there is a cyclone coming. And this wasn't long after they had had a really big cyclone that had caused a lot of damage there, and they were still under reconstruction. So we had no food in the hotel except for really old, probably not good idea to eat sandwiches. We had to hunker down in our rooms. And I remember looking out the window, and there was an open field next to me, and there was a little shack in that. And the roof had obviously partially come off in the last cyclone. So it was one of those metal sheet pieces. And someone had stuck a rock on top, this massive rock. And all I could see was this thing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, is that going to come off? Because, slice someone's head off or something like that. And feeling really worried because we weren't very far from the beach either. And I was just thinking, oh my God, we're here to do disaster management, and here we are in the middle of it. What I saw, though, when we went to the emergency centre there was how much they were putting into action the things that we had spoken about in Australia, how they were talking to some of the organisers and some of the organisations that work with people with disability to make sure that everything was okay. They had stockpiled aids needed for people with disability, so wheelchairs, crutches, and the like. So they were so calm. They were so calm. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, am I not going to go home? It wasn't as big as the last cyclone. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but it's a good story. But I was amazed how calm they were, and how they were so organised in a very, very difficult situation following a previous cyclone when there have been lots of damage, to make sure that aid and if people were at risk, checking on those people. So it was great to see how what we worked on was being put into practice in a situation where they needed to put it in practice. So not something on just a piece of paper saying, we will do this, we will do this, we will do this. We were actually seeing them putting into action. And I think for us, that was really, really rewarding.
Thanks, Julie. And it just shows, as you both mentioned, how resilient these countries can be. I suppose growing up in the Philippines as well, we have lots of disaster. and we turn to, turn that into humor to cope, and that's what happening when we were there. And they shared so many humorous stories about the event, but you can see the resilience from the group. And that was a good experience. Jeanette?
Well, I'll mention just a couple, but briefly. I guess I've been through both coups in Fiji, at the fall of the Suharto government in Indonesia, when my hotel was surrounded by demonstrators and tanks, people with Molotov cocktails, but the care of the people in the hotel, because their families were in danger too, was something that was quite remarkable, and I had to leave the country. But when you work in development, sometimes you get people who want to talk about the catastrophes in danger. But for me, when I look at some of the things that I've been through, and I guess health was the main thing, where sometimes you had encephalitis around and things like that. But what I really get out of development is the times that I've walked with Vince and downloading after a really tiring day, and we'll go for a walk because we both like to exercise and just talk and about the day that's been, what we might do the next day, and just personal stuff. So it's the team camaraderie that I absolutely love in working in development. I got to say, working with Vince, who came from the Philippines, and also some of the participants will walk afterwards with us as well. It's that camaraderie and sharing and feeling that part of a team that is making a difference, and is not just imposing, but collectively making a difference. It's the really best part, I think, of development.
Yeah, you're part of a team, aren't you? You're not Jeanette or Julie or Vince. You're part of this fantastic team, and you need that because development work is difficult.
It is, yeah.
And so you've got that support around you, which makes it just fantastic.
And the interesting thing about team is, I think sometimes you forget the experience you have or the knowledge that you have. But when you get into a team and you talk about things and ask questions, you realize, oh yeah, I've got that. I have got that, and I can share those things. I can share those skills and help build some skills. So team brings out the best in people, I think, especially when it's you and Vince.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, Julie. Some parting words, perhaps, to our colleagues from the Philippines, for those of them who are thinking about working in international development. What advice can you give, or some information that they might find helpful?
Who wants to go first?
You go first this time, Jeanette.
I'll go first. I think, first of all, is that it's really important, I think, if you want to make that shift, to believe in yourself. I often said to my husband, maybe I taught for too long, and I did, and he'll say to me, you can speak to anybody, any number of people, because you learnt those skills in teaching. When you start to look at what you have to offer, don't downplay your skills, because think back over your career, and you would have many skills that you can bring to facilitation. And it's really important to acknowledge those skills. It can be worthwhile to do some extra study, but not necessarily. But what I would say is find a great mentor, someone that's actually been in development, and use that mentor. I was very lucky because I'd worked with Nelson, who works with Vince. We'd worked together. And so I actually just fell into development because Nelson was heading up the International Development Unit. So it's really good to have a mentor. But please don't downplay your skills. You've got transferable skills. And it's a matter for looking for them, because remember that development is about facilitation. I might just leave it there, I think.
Yeah, I so agree with everything that Jeanette says. I think, you know, being good at this comes within. It's not sometimes what you learn from a book or, you know, lectures. I think being able to engage with people is really important. Having empathy is really important. Being curious is really, really important. I think we underestimate this idea of curiosity, because you need to be curious, because, you know, as Jeanette was saying before, we need to try and understand the context in which people live, because that is where we will be working, and that's where all the facilitation will happen, and where we bring up the solutions. It's not necessarily written in a book. It's in the people that we work with that the solutions are there. So mentor, yep, tick, but also think about yourself and having the strength and the drive. I think we are global citizens. We, you know, this idea of nationalism, I struggle with now, because we are so interconnected that we need to care about people in the Philippines, in Ukraine, in Yemen, Myanmar, wherever there are issues. We are part of the same human family and global citizens. And so it is our responsibility as well.
Well, thank you, Julie and Jeanette, and I really appreciate, you know, your time that you gave to the group. I know you're extremely busy people, but thank you for giving your time to the group. And on behalf of QUT, thank you for joining us, and I'm sure that our group from Rizal Technological University appreciates you participating in this one. Thank you very much once again.
We did it because we love it.
Thank you. Yeah, we do. Passion is so important.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, thanks, Vince. Thanks, Jeanette. See you.
And I hope that that conversation with Julie and Jeanette give you some perspective of what's involved in working international development and how it can be very rewarding, but it's at times very challenging. Working in, for example, in a developing country can be difficult because, you know, there's a reason why there are issues and challenges in those countries, whether it's poverty, whether it's disaster, whether it's substandard government services, but it is also very rewarding. Now, I only have a couple of slides to go, and I'd like to talk about opportunities. I was asked by Dr. Opalencia and Professor Escada to share with you some opportunities. So I'd like to, because this is what I'm very familiar with, is the scholarship in Australia. As I'll mention to you, I am a product of scholarship. I am many years ago, I was selected as one of the scholars to go to Australia. I think I was 23 or 24 at the time, and I am the youngest in the batch to take a master's degree at the University of Queensland. And from then on, it actually changed my life. And it has a profound effect to me that until now, I'm enjoying. I've been a product of international development since that time. So I'll just like to share this with you. Now. Bear with me for a moment. And I'll share with you the screen on scholarship. Okay, where is it? Just give me a second, and I do apologize again for this technological challenges that we're having. I really, really don't like Zoom. I really want to go back to face-to-face at the moment. Here it goes, here it comes. So I'll share this again. There you go. So as you may know, the Australian government is offering scholarship to Filipinos. It has been the cornerstone of the official development assistance in the Philippines to have short course training and long-term courses in Australia. And as I mentioned a while ago, I'm a recipient of that scholarship, and it makes a difference to my life in general. Now, the one that I'd like to show to you is the open category. The open category is open to anyone that is eligible. You can apply at any age, but I think you need to have 2 years worth of experience before you can apply. Okay, reading. Okay, so those are the information for the 2023 intake. I think this the application process. The deadline for the application actually is in April. So if you're interested, you can still apply. So as Jeanette mentioned a while ago, do not underestimate your skill. Try to be confident that despite of the many applicants, you might be selected as one of the participants. I did try, and I succeeded. So if I can do it, you can also do it in terms of getting a scholarship. And not only that, not only Australia, as I said, it's a multi-billion-dollar sector. There are a lot of scholarship being offered around the world, specifically to developed countries. There's scholarship in New Zealand, in the US, in Japan, in Nordic countries, the European Union, even in Singapore. What I will advise for you in looking for opportunity is have the drive to do it, and you have to research very early on, even a year in advance. Have a look at the deadlines. What are the requirements, and make sure that you tick all those boxes and exceed them. For instance, if they're requiring you to have 2 years worth of experience in the job, then you might have 5 years. So you can have an edge in the selection process. And what's the important thing that you need to consider? I think, from my own opinion, is about, there is an area here we talk about the priority field of studies. So have a look at all of this and think about, well, what can I do in my country? For example, peace and development applicants, for instance, that are from Mindanao or who have links in Mindanao and have a peace and development background can go for this. And there is a high chance that you will get accepted if you are ticking one of the priority areas. Education is here, digital economy and cybersecurity, trade and economics. And this is the area where I applied natural resource management. And you have governance, public policy, and humanitarian risk. So it's a broad area that you can have a look at and explore. And as I said, those are the benefits and entitlement, and I can tell you that they are more than enough to have a decent living condition in Australia. They'll pay for your tuition fee. They'll give you allowance monthly. There are academic supports and airfare and all of those things, establishment allowance and pastoral care, and support for people with disability. So I encourage you to explore, as I said, the many countries that are offering scholarship. And usually the best source that you can go to are the embassies located in the Philippines. They'll know when are the deadlines. Sometimes they subcontract this to private institution, but they work with them closely and they can let you know what are the requirements. And usually they're all spelled out in their website. Another area in partnership that I'd like to emphasize is QUT. We're always looking for partners. We're not looking for partners in the sense of having an MOU. Sometimes MOU is being misused. If you need to sign something like an MOU, there should be an attached project to it, an attached dollar value. Because as you can see in many universities in Australia, in international organizations, for instance, they have targets. I do have a target. And if you help me achieve the target, then I'm willing to help you also achieve your target. So it's a win-win situation for both of us. Offer something that is of value to your partner, whether it's in the form of research, whether it's in the form of projects, small projects to start with. I'll give you an example. We do have projects in the Philippines from time to time, and we are always looking for experts. And the best source of that, obviously, are universities. So, if I'm looking for an expert in let's say, financial management or, I don't know, public financial management, surely your faculty will have those expertise and we can work together on involving them in our projects. And, that is a way to start a partnership, which is beneficial for both of us. And with that, I might have gone over time. And again, I do apologize for the technology, and I'm really, really sorry. Someone is doing that for me sometimes when I present. So this is my first time to do it alone, and that happened. I do apologize for that once again. And again, thank you very much for everyone for listening to me. And I'm not sure what is the next part of the program, but I'll give it back to Jamie.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sakris. No worries on the technological problems. It's normal during this pandemic. We're using Zoom or any other platforms. It's normal to have technical delays, technical lags. But again, we would love to thank you again for a very informative and inspiring talk. I agree. International development really is crucial. And to also your colleagues, Jeanette and Julie, thank you very much. I believe a lot of our faculty and students have questions. So can I have the technical team help us out here so we can have our panel discussion? Okay, so you can already raise your questions. You can type that in our chat box here on Zoom or in our YouTube video or YouTube Live.
Miss Jamie, can we call Sir John?
Yes, yes. Can we have Professor John Estrellado?
Hi, sir. Sir Vince. Thank you for making us learn about international development. Your career seems to work like a vocation and passion on your part. You can travel around the world while making yourself aware of situations in different societies, be part of a global development movement that uplifts people worldwide. I'm just curious, what is the worst international issue you have personally witnessed, and how did your organization address this issue?
Thank you for that question, Sir John. I, as Jeanette and Julie have shared, we have challenges also in international development. The worst I've been is we were going to an island in a remote area in the Solomon Islands. For those of you who don't know where Solomon Islands is, it's located in the north of Australia, between somewhere near Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu. They're one of the poorest countries in the world. And, we have to travel to an island, and we have to use a small boat that in the middle of the ocean stopped, and water started pouring in. And, we all thought we're all going to die at the time, because, it was desperate. But, some of our participants were very religious, held their hands together and pray. And then for some reason, the boat started its engine again, and they were able to get the water out of it. So, that is some of the experiences that we have in international development that could happen. As you can see also in Ukraine, there's a war going on. Some of the international development specialists are already there talking about, but how can they help Ukraine? And I've also experienced coup attempt in the Maldives, where they ousted the president while we're doing our training. So there were tear gas all around us, and we were evacuated out of the country. But luckily, we do have insurance at QUT that will cover all of those. And I encourage you also, if you are looking into international development, that make sure that support for that particular team to go overseas are also there, to be more attractive to your faculty members, to your consultants, and to your staff to be involved. I hope I answered your question, Sir John.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Sir Vince. Sir, I have another question. This is very much particular to my role as a faculty member of RTU College of Business. I'm a business professor. And what you have mentioned about research projects contributing to your global organization. So, as a business professor, what particular topic for research project would you recommend to us?
Our research is being handled separately here at QUT by the Office of Research Services, but I can link you to them. No, I was telling in my previous meeting with Dr. Opalencia and Professor Estocada, sometimes how difficult it is for developing country to have a partner with a developed country university, because what they're looking for is equivalency. So sometimes if you are a graduate of an Australian university or the US or the UK, where they have this equivalency sort of training, then research can be easy. But sometimes if we are a graduate of a developing country, it can be very difficult. And this is something that I'm really, really passionate about, because, I see that as sort of a discrimination against some of those universities, and it shouldn't happen. But, it's a process that we've been fighting for quite some time now. And, we can see some of the results of that in terms of international development. So, Sir John, there is a wide area of research that you can look at. And in terms of international business, you can look about, trade and investment is very important to Australia and its partners in developing country. So that is something probably that they would be interested to be involved with in Australia.
That is well noted, sir. Thank you so much, Sir Vince.
All right, so we have here another question. Mr. Angelo Manuel, you can turn on your camera and your mic.
Good morning to all of your organizers. That's my short takeaways and insights since questions right now in Zoom and YouTube. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. It will help to my personal growth, to your guest speakers for your webinar this morning. That's all for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Can we
you.
have Professor Joy Horduela?
Hi po, good morning. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Kay Opolencia, the Director of International Linkages and External Affairs Center, and the entire team for giving me and actually us an opportunity to be part of this event. So, of course, we would like to say thank you po to our keynote speaker, Mr. Vincent Sacris. Sir, your talk and your sharing this morning is actually inspiring to educators like us. And looking forward to hear more from you kasi it's really overwhelming to hear someone who is actually part of Queensland University and hearing all of your sharings parang for us parang we can also do such thing through your sharing. Parang it seems like it is also possible for us also. So for my question po, sir, actually, I would like to know or can you share with us some of your best practices at Queensland University of Technology when it comes to global development that we can actually benchmark. So especially now that there's some sort of transition, the moment na nag-strike po yung pandemic, and then lately we are trying to convert to limited face-to-face. Maybe you can share more, sir, about your best practices. Thank you so much po.
Thank you, Ma'am Joy. As you can imagine, Australia is also affected by the pandemic, and the international development section is affected because, as I said before, we used to travel like, once a month or every other week to countries or interstate to deliver a program, but that was affected and hindered by the pandemic. So what we did was to transform many of our programs, the training programs that we have, the capacity building we have, into online courses. And that was well received also by the managing contractors, those who are, and by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, because even though there's a pandemic, the budget are still there. The budget that the United States, 35 million they have, the 4 billion that Australia has, and Germany has about 20 billion. They're still there. It needs to be spent. So what we did was convert those programs online, and they were very, they received that those courses, with the same passion as if they're coming to Australia. So we, in terms of income, we were not so greatly affected because we were able to convert those courses. Obviously, our participants are not happy that they're no longer coming to Australia, and that's understandable because you apply for this program with the hope of coming here to look at best practices. But having that, quick thinking from the leadership of a unit that, have that be able to foresee what will happen in the next 2 years keeps us going in terms of the pandemic. And now that it's almost over, we are starting to reopen. I'm actually expecting 4 groups in May and July from the Philippines. Actually, the Department of Science and Technology will be coming here for a program, and then 1 in Cambodia, 1 in Thailand, and 1 in Mongolia. So it's going to be a very busy May and June for us because Australia is starting to reopen. Yeah, so for that, Mom, I think the answer to that is, leadership from the organization will help you a lot in terms of steering that particular organization to have a look at, to be able to foresee what will be the problems when, a certain disruption comes in, like the pandemic.
Thank you so much, Sir Sancris.
Okay, so we have here another one from Sibet as well, Genevieve Ausan.
Hello po, naririnig po ba?
Yes.
Yes po. I would like to say that I'm very honored to be here of this webinar, sir, because of you, Sir Vincent. And I'm feeling right now is very spectacular and inspired by Ma'am Jeanette and Ma'am Juliet because of their full willpower and love to make a change by helping different countries. And I'm very inspired, and I want, kasi narinig ko po si Ma'am Juliet and Ma'am Jeanette. And I would like to ask is, when or how did you decide to be part of QUT, sir?
Okay.
Yun po.
So when I had my scholarship here, someone approached me to said, well, why don't you apply for a job at QUT? So I was in another university, the University of Queensland, but I have some colleagues here at QUT and said, hey, well, I'll try. And they accepted me, and that's the beginning of the story. So it all falls into places. So I was happy, and I was here ever since. Before that, I go from one job to another because I'm not happy. But here, I feel very empowered, and I feel that I am helping not only the Philippines but many other less fortunate countries around the world in that sense. And to took your point also, ma'am, is that Julie and Jeanette, yes, they're very inspirational women, and they're lovely to work with. If you have questions for them, send it to me, and I'll ask them. And I would like to also say to everyone in here, if you have question, feel free to email me, or friend me on Facebook and send a message to Messenger. I'm very happy to answer any of your question with regards to international development.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so we have here a question from our chat box. Are there specialized field of scholarships that are allied to a certain experiences in our career, gender and development, engagement? So also, is age 50 plus still qualified? Knowing that age is very critical in terms of scholarships requirements, do you have scholarship schemes for such age group? Because there are a lot of programs that do discriminate people in so many privileges when we speak of age. Thank you, sir. Mabuhay. That's from Professor Nida.
Ma'am Nida, thank you for that question. I think that is an extremely useful and very good question. Australia used to have age limit when applying for scholarship. I think during my time, if you are older than 35, then you can't apply for scholarship. But as you can see from the screen that I share, I was surprised to see there that all can apply regardless of age, status, and there are only certain criteria there that you need to tick, like you should be working for more than 2 years, and you should have lived in the Philippines for more than 12 months. So I think in Australia, they've scrapped that requirement about age because there is a clamor from the groups here that's ageism, right? We're discriminating because of an age. And here in Australia, that is extremely important. So for instance, if you go here on shopping malls, in McDonald's, you can see older people working in a counter or a sales lady, whereas in the Philippines, it's a requirement that you need to be, younger than 25 years old to be on those positions or on those jobs. It is very strict in here in terms of discrimination. If I am an employer and I would not employ you because, number one, you are not younger than 25, you are not female or anything like that, you have a disability, then I can sue you, and I surely will win that case against you in that case. So, ma'am, my advice is to look at the website that I sent you and see for yourself what are the requirements. My advice also is, as much as possible, target those areas that they really want you to apply for, so you have an edge to other participants.
Okay, thank you, sir. Also, we have here a question from our YouTube Live from Eunice Angeles. What got you hooked into international development? other than extending a helping hand and empowering people?
Sorry, Jamie, can you repeat that, please?
Okay. What got you hooked in international development, other than extending a helping hand and empowering people?
I think it's important that in your line of work, you need to be happy of the remuneration that you have, the payment that you will receive. And I can tell you that we're generously being paid in international development. We do have allowances also because we're sometimes going to dangerous countries. So that's add to that excitement also. But as I said before, I do love to travel, and this, gives me an opportunity to travel for free. In the past, I had to go home to the Philippines for free and deliver a project, and at the same time, I can see my friends and family, without paying to go to the Philippines. So I really felt very privileged that I have this job, and I've been here for 18 years. And it was wonderful, and I've got job offers from other organizations and university, but I do enjoy being here, and I do enjoy what I love. So it's important for us that we need to love, and we need to enjoy what we are doing. The monetary compensation is a huge factor, but it shouldn't be all of it. Sometimes, we can trade off pay for happiness in terms of what we do. As long as you're happy with your work, then you should continue doing it. But it wouldn't hurt to dream more. One of the lessons that I've learned is, you only know what you know, but unless you mingle with other people, mingling with Jeanette and Julie opened a lot of opportunity for me and other perspective also. If we are just mingling with people of the same age as ours, for instance, the same group that we have, then the possibility there of expanding your horizon in terms of career opportunity is also limited. So as they mentioned, if you have time, also find a mentor that can guide you.
Okay,
I hope I answered your question. I think.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. I will find my mentor. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we have here questions from those who raised their hand. Can we have Miss Fatima Andrade?
Good afternoon po. So, given that we have a lot of challenges when it comes to global development, I just want to ask for your advice, sir, especially for us entrepreneur students, on what can we do to alleviate those challenges po.
Fatima, I think being enrolled in an entrepreneur course is a good step. In many developing countries, the lack of people that can steer the economy is a big problem, and those factors that can steer the economy lie sometimes on small businesses, small entrepreneurs. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business, and you create jobs, you create a microeconomy in your community, for example, by providing goods and services in that particular area. So, we have a saying about think global, act local. So that is always true in any part of the world, that we need to develop the skills. We need to steer the economy at where we are, but then we should also think about the global perspective. How can maybe someday I'll be the next successful businessman or businesswoman who think about something that I can apply to other countries. I can probably export at some point. But that spirit of entrepreneurship is extremely important in a country, because you are providing, again, that's what I said, employment and the trickle-down effect on the economy.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's have three more. Can we have Miss Mika Florendo?
So, hello, sir. So, what advice do you have for immersing yourself in a new language? Because as we all know, that learning the language is a simple step to connect with people in a certain country, but there are individuals that have so much potential and there are a lot of opportunities awaiting for them, but they are afraid of going out of their comfort zones because they are not familiar with different language or even just the universal language.
Mm. So yeah, I think that question you have, Mika, is multifaceted. One is going outside your comfort zone. We all know that for you to expand your comfort zone, you need to get out of it and broaden that comfort zone that you have. Learning a new language can be very helpful, specifically if you want to work in a country that speaks that language. For example, if you want to work in South America, then I think it's imperative that you learn to speak Spanish, because that's the language that many of countries in South America are speaking. Or if you want to work in French-speaking countries in many parts of Africa or in Europe, then you need to learn French. But I don't know any other foreign language other than English, and we were able to spread, I suppose, our wings to different parts of the worlds that are, francophone or those who speak other language than English. But I think as long as you have, English is the most universally used language around the world. As long as you have a good command of that language, you should be okay. But as I said, it wouldn't hurt to learn a new language. I always want to learn Spanish because I want to stay longer in South America. It's such a beautiful continent. But then, sometimes we're very busy. But I will still want to learn to speak another foreign language.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so let's have one from our chat box. Good day, Sir Vincent. As we can see, you're really a successful man and you've already visited and traveled to a lot of places / countries around the world. But my question is, what really inspires or motivates you to continue what you're doing right now?
I think first and foremost is, that heart to help those who are less fortunate is a driving factor for me. Sometimes when you are in a situation where you are resource poor, you sometimes don't think to care about others because you want to first enrich yourself for you to be able to care to others. And that's what happened to me when I was in Australia. I no longer worry about some of the basic things in life. So I have that ability now to have that empathy to others who have been through what I've been through in the past. And, I can share you so many instances where, us trainers do, as you can see from Julie and Jeanette, they've cried in some of our trainings because you can see the destitute situation that some of these countries are into. There are countries there that are poorer than the Philippines. Philippines is, way better than many other countries, although I know that we still have challenges in the Philippines. I was talking to the Department of Education and, they're telling me about teachers who are walking, 3 kilometers a day, or students walking a whole day just to get to a school. And that's really heartbreaking. And they showed us a video of how those students are willing to go to length just to go to school. And that is replicated all around the world. It's not a problem unique to the Philippines. It's a problem that is probably worse in some areas of the world. And that drives me to say, I know I can't help much, but I can. What we always say here in our unit is we can save the world one project at a time. As I mentioned before, even if I can inspire a teacher to be, you know, an inspiration to her students because of the work that she's done, then, you know, that's a wonderful thing. So it's that drive, it's that passion in what you do that will keep you going.
Okay, so thank you. Also, we have here from Aldrich Aguilar. I think he has a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So, first of all, I'd like to thank for this opportunity, for this wonderful opportunity, because it will truly broaden our horizon and more so, open more career advancing opportunities. And I'm actually encouraged to apply for this, try, but I know that scholarships and all do not cover all the expenses. So my only question would be, how financially prepared should we?
Aldridge, for example, with the Australian scholarship, everything is covered. You know, when I did my scholarship, I don't have to spend anything because the allowance that they give to me is enough to cover my, you know, housing, you know, food, and even recreation. Because of my scholarship to Australia, I was able to go to the US without earning an extra amount of money because it's not substantial, but it is enough. And you also have work rights when you are in a country. If you're a student, there are limitations. I think you can only work 20 hours a week, for instance, but you can, you know, work at a department store or at McDonald's and earn extra money just to help you out with your expenses. But with Australian government scholarship, I can assure you that that is enough. They pay for your return airfare, your tuition fee, you know, and they'll give you a monthly, I think, weekly allowance just for you to spend and pay for your rent and food. And being in a scholarship, I think, is a wonderful experience. Imagine, you know, going with wide-eyed young people to a foreign country and experiencing the culture and, you know, having to learn a new lifestyle. It's amazing. It's an eye opener to everyone. And I deeply encourage every one of you to try.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to our participants for a very engaging discussion. So at this point, let me call on Professor Cyril and Rafael to award the certificate.
The Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Mr. Vincent G. Sacris for his unparalleled and commendable dedication in sharing profound knowledge and expertise in the topic RTU Beyond Borders, Perspectives on Global Development, in pursuit of continuous exchange of ideas to invigorate learning in this challenging time. His inputs as resource speaker greatly contributed to the internationalization efforts of the university. Given this 22nd day of March 2022 at Rizal Technological University, City of Mandaluyong, Philippines. Signed by the Director of International Linkages and External Affairs Center, Dr. Christine Y. Opolencia, and our University President, Dr. Maria Eugenia M. Yaco.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's have the photo op. Can we have Dr. K and the rest of the team? All right. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so let's have a few announcements from the center. So if you are interested to know more about the International Linkages and External Affairs Center, please do like and follow us on Facebook. That's RTU, International Linkages and External Affairs Center, we can help you find the right programs, the right scholarships, and exchanges that would fit your educational development. Also, the University of Bengkulu is happy to announce that the UNIBS scholarship for international students now accepts applicants who wants to study abroad. The registration will run from March 1 to June 15, 2022. So what are you waiting for? Make your dreams come true in Indonesia. Also, for those interested in our programs, you may fill out this form here showed on your screen. This will be the center's database to reach you faster. So you can scan the QR code, or you can just click on the link that will be posted in our Facebook page and in the chat box. Okay. Also, please do not forget to fill out the post-evaluation form. The link is posted in our chat box for both Zoom and YouTube Live. So e-certificates can be claimed after filling out the form. Thank you very much. All right, so now that that's settled, to formally close our momentous event, let us hear the closing remarks from the unit head of International Assistance, Professor Donata Z. Estocada.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Okay, of course, I would like to ask everyone for a warm applause for our guest speaker, Mr. Vincent Sacris. Okay. Vince, thank you so much. Okay. So to proceed to my closing remarks, first and foremost, I would like to express my appreciation to our keynote speaker, Mr. Vincent Sacris from Queensland University of Technology in Australia, for his valuable contribution to our webinar. My deepest gratitude goes also to all who attended the webinar and helped to make it such a successful event. Indeed, it was a fantastic discussion between the audience and our keynote speaker. Now, the International Linkages and External Affairs Center supports the university's aims to develop globally competitive and socially responsible professionals through innovative and sustainable extension programs. And this event is just one of the many programs that ILEA has in store for you. In my capacity as in charge in giving the closing remarks, I believe it would be appropriate and useful to summarize some of the themes as well as ideas emanating from this webinar. Firstly, I think the webinar has been effective in meeting its purpose, which first to understand and appreciate the role of international development, considering that societies and countries have differing levels of economic or human development on an international scale. To have a conceptual view of how is it working in different countries, as Janelle said, you have to understand the context, and Julie advised us to find a good mentor. And also this webinar also gave us the opportunity to explore possible opportunities for collaborations in research, faculty exchange, faculty training and development, and also for student scholarship programs. And I believe the keynote speaker has also answered all the interesting questions of the audience and have inspired the audience to explore beyond borders, to explore Australia, not only to experience the kangaroos and koala in Australia, but to also explore greener pasture in Australia. Now, through the more or less 2 hours of fruitful discussion, the important issues in the international development was discussed by the speaker. He highlighted the opportunities and benefits of working abroad, and he also made us believe that we are all born equal, and like Fatima and Michael, everybody deserves equal opportunities. Now, before ending my closing remarks, I would like to convey special thanks to our students, faculty members, university staff who have been extremely staying with us all throughout the event. Finally, my deepest thanks to ILEA committee or ILEAC team for sparing this very wonderful event. Again, this is only the beginning of so many programs that ILEAC has in store for you. Once again, let us go beyond borders. Let us go global. Thank you and good morning.
With that, thank you very much to all the participants for attending this webinar. We hope that you have learned a lot from our speaker. Do not forget to like our Facebook page and fill out the forms to be updated on the different programs of the center. So on behalf of all the organizers, this has been your host, Jamie Lee Gregorio, wishing everyone a fruitful afternoon filled with new learnings as we journey beyond borders. Remember to disinfect, practice social distancing, and keep safe. Bye, everyone.
Thank you po. Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.